Robert Frost said, "Half the world is composed of people who have something to say and can't, and the other half who have nothing to say and keep on saying it." I like this quote because I want to learn how to listen better to you. I can't know how you feel. I can be on the sidelines and cheer you on and toss you the towel and maybe step in if you ask, but there's nothing I can do to say, I know what this is like, because that's not true. And as the old saying goes, if you've met one person with Parkinson's, you've met one person with Parkinson's. However, there are some staggering similarities. Like the first symptoms that I shared with one of the last consults I did. I talk to new Parkinson's patients regularly because I feel like I can give back. There are some things I wish I had known when I was first diagnosed that were left out that could be helpful. And if I have that information, I want to share it. Alleviate some sort of striving or suffering or the amount of sweat, blood, and tears we have to go through to get to the information. Let me bypass that and just hand it over. And then the patient, the new patient, can do whatever they want with it. The person now living with this horrible disease. Of course I'm sad when I meet them. Of course I see myself in some of what they share, but not always. I wish that I'd never met anybody with Parkinson's. I wish it would stop. I believe that a lot of this is environmental. It makes me angry. Why are we still using Roundup as an example? Why are we still using chemicals that we know are neurointerruptive? Just a few years back, my neighbor along the property line of the home I used to live in was spraying, and I said, what on earth did you keep spraying on the side of the yard there? She's like, I don't like bees. I said, do you like to eat and live? Incidentally, she had a neurological... Anyway, she's got problems just like Parkinson's, so... Not saying that it's the cause of Parkinson's, but it certainly didn't help. The genetic template sets the stage, and the environment pulls the trigger, as they say, too. Enough with these ham-handed phrases and quotes. What I want to share is this. I can listen to you and not respond. In my family of origin, that would mean I'm not paying attention and I don't care what you're saying. That's not true. If I'm really listening, it's going to take a beat before I can respond. But I can process pretty quickly. And the labyrinth between my thought and the mouth is growing longer and more complicated as Parkinson's advances. That doesn't mean that people with Parkinson's get dimmer. It means that the language center changes. Speech patterns are difficult. There are people for whom speaking is very foggy. And it's not because their minds aren't sharp and they're not quick. On the contrary, they're extremely witty and quick. Some of the people I know who get interrupted constantly, sometimes by me, on the radio show or the podcast that we do, are incredibly sharp and astute and emotionally intelligent, and they are quick-witted to the point of shaming the rest of us. I mean, these are Bostonians and New Yorkers, and they're just quick. I wonder if I could pause more. If there's a way to teach patience, boy, getting Parkinson's sure does make it work. You have to figure out how to be patient once you advance with this disease because it will slow you down. Sometimes I'll want to throw a plate against the wall and scream and yell and stomp out of a room, and I can't even do that. I have to slowly turn, and then I turn back and say, could you get the door for me? Now that I've just told you off. It doesn't really work out quite so well. I want to be in the habit of listening to understand. Because your story and your thoughts and the way that you specifically share your story matters and is of the utmost importance. You're the most important person in the room if I'm in the room with you. That's going to be true across the board. Because it's not about me, especially in that particular role where I'm sharing information that I wish I had known when I was first diagnosed. The job that I'm doing, or that I've taken on, the volunteer work, is to make sure I'm hearing with care and that I've heard you correctly. It does not mean that I don't hear stories like, wow, that's a pretty amazing courtroom story. Wow, that's a pretty amazing jail story. How did you get in? That is a pretty horrifying date story. I heard a story the other day called My Rikers Island Boyfriend that was, wow. Some stories are hard to hear. Did you not notice when in his profile picture there was always a clink in the background there? You didn't notice that? That skipped out. What about the one where why are you holding a fish? Oh, wait, that's not a fish. That's an arm. Anyway, some stories are pretty funny. And I'm not making fun of anybody, but maybe I am, including myself. We're all actors on this vast stage of our, I was telling this embarrassing dating story the other day, and it was pretty funny, and with some distance. At the time, it wasn't very funny. It goes along well with my embarrassing restaurant story and other fun moments in life. I also got a note that meditation class was canceled. And the reason why is because the person had a nervous breakdown, but instead of saying that they just had this sort of break, whatever that means, right, to any of us, they said that they had some family business to tend to. So they canceled the class. And we saw him out, like he was out at a restaurant on a date during the class. And I thought, why didn't you just say you had a date? That would have been much more interesting. See, we never know. Sometimes truth is more interesting and more real and more palatable than fiction. Can't make some of this stuff up. But in terms of Parkinson's and listening and hearing and really wanting to understand, the obstacle is the path. It's the perfect practice for what we need. It's a spiritual path. It isn't physical, as we presume. It isn't just overcome physically. In fact, I don't know that you can overcome, but you can learn to live with this werewolf, this uninvited guest. It's going to hurt other people if we're not careful with our communication. And as I just mentioned quite a bit of times here in these chats, our communication is altered by Parkinson's. So as long as we know that, we can practice. Okay, this is the end of this tour for today. I hope you've had a nice visit, and I will see you again soon. Thanks for listening.